I need to requeen a hive, and I could do it the normal way with a cage and a sugar plug, which is really the most common way. But I'm impatient, and we just showed how a laying queen is much more quickly accepted. So we're going to use a press-in cage. So basically, I found a frame of brood where the bees are just emerging. So there's going to be cells for her to lay in, and I'm going to let her out right on. I'm going to put my cage where I want it, and I'm going to let her out. Let most of the bees off. Nurse bees, not a big deal, but we're going to let her out right underneath the cage, right onto the comb. I didn't let her fly in the air, so we want her to walk out onto the. There she is, and she's in there now. I'm just going to press this cage in. She's already got her head in the cell. Now, as these bees emerge, they'll automatically be her attendants, and of course, other bees can take care of her through the cage, other nurse bees. And as these bees emerge, they'll clean out the cells. She'll have a place to lay, and I can check back on this queen in 3 or 4 days. As long as I see eggs that she's laying, she's a laying queen. And then I should be able to just open up, take this cage off, and she will roam across the frame and start laying, and they'll have accepted her, and I can cut down that time from, say, 7 days to 3 or 4 days. And technically, she's laid a few eggs in there too, so I don't lose quite as much production. So that's the quick and easy way to do that. I got to get her back in. So I'm back at this hive that I'm requeening with a push-in cage. Unfortunately, my queen's in there roaming around, but I can't actually see if she laid eggs. But they are treating her like a laying queen, so I'm hoping everything is good. So we're gonna just let her out, and hopefully she just walks around. So there she is now, and they're just you know, not really paying much more attention to her. And I do have eggs in there now that I could get a clear view. I don't know if Austin can get them on the camera, but there is eggs in there. So now she's a laying queen, and I only lost 4 days of of being queenless. This is a big difference. 1,500 eggs a day. I'm only losing 4 days. That means I'm only losing 6,000 eggs compared to letting them requeen themselves. That could be 21 to even 28 days, depending. So do the math on that, times 1,500, and that's a lot of bees that I would lose. So that's one reason why not to let them requeen themselves. And then this just shaves off maybe three days off a regular California cage, and that's 3 or 4 days. That, like I said, can be another 6,000 bees. So that's a big difference. So we are going to let her put her back in the hive, and let her continue to do her stuff. But see, she's just roaming around like a laying queen, and this is very useful if you have a hive that's a little bit that you're requeening because of their temperament. Sometimes they're not so likely to accept a queen so easily, and you can lose a queen. This is a much safer way to do it. And sometimes with plastic foundations, it's easy. You can push this cage right down tight to it. But sometimes with wax foundation, they can get out and underneath that cage. Don't be so discouraged. Still check that whole hive for eggs, because she may have just gotten out and is roaming around, and you may find eggs away from the cage. So that's a possibility. But this one worked out just fine. So we're going to put her away, and we're going to give her some pollen patty. I'm going to come back to this hive in a week with our regular weekly inspection, and hopefully we'll be back up and running, and we only lost 4 days of being queenless. So, one last thing, whenever you're introducing a queen, you still got to remain vigilant in checking for queen cells. Just because a queen's in the cage, or if she's in a push-in cage and laying, the workers don't know what you're doing. They're judging by the amount of new brood in a hive, whether they're happy with that queen. So you still have to continue to look for queen cells, because they can continue to make queen cells, and you still don't want a virgin to emerge
while we're requeening. So very important to stay on top of that. Still check for queen cells and scrape them out of there if you're trying to requeen like this.